Welcome to the Unstoppable Recording Machine Podcast, brought to you by the 2017 URM Summit, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to spend 4 days with the next generation of audio professionals and special guests, including Andrew Wade, Kane Churko, Billy Decker, Fluff, Brian Hood, and many more. The inspiration, ideas, and friendship you'll get here are the things that you'll look back on as inflection points in your life. Learn more at urmsummit.com. And now your host, EYAL Levy.
Hey guys, welcome to the Unstoppable Recording Machine Podcast. I'm going to take a moment to address something because we pride ourselves here on being forward with our audience and pulling no punches. You probably noticed that there's been a reduction in podcasts lately. There haven't been that many coming out, and I just want to tell you why. Back in September, I bit my tongue in my sleep multiple times. It was awful, and it just made talking really hard, and it just kind of sucked. Anything longer than like a sentence or two was just pain, and it just awful. And I did this night after night after night. Problem has been solved. It took a few weeks for my tongue to heal up. I am now healed and talking, as you can hear. But the idea of podcasting was not really appealing because one thing you have to do while you're podcasting is really try to engage your guest. And it's hard to engage your guest when you can't speak very well. So I hope you guys forgive me for that. I hope you guys keep listening because I've got a really cool show right now for you. We've got Mr. Daniel Bergstrand, who is one of my favorite all-time producer mixers. Now, some of you who tune into Nail the Mix might be saying, why is this coming out after your Nail the Mix with Daniel? And, well, just because I bit my fucking tongue last month and couldn't podcast. So we did it now. If you don't know Daniel, it's just that you don't know him. Because he's worked with bands like In Flames, Meshuggah, Soilwork, Dimmu Borgir, Behemoth, tons of others. If you own Superior Drummer or Easy Drummer, like if you know the Metal Foundry, Metalheads, or Drum Kit from Hell, he's the dude who produced those drum sample packs. And let me just go down this list of albums he's worked on, and I'm going to read them out because I don't want to go by memory. But Meshuggah, Destroy, Erase, Improve, Devin Townsend, Ocean, Strapping Young Lad, City, Devin Townsend, Ocean Machine, Meshuggah, Chaosphere, Darkane, Rusted Angel, bunch more Darkanes, In Flames, Reroute to Remain, Behemoth, Demigod, In Flames, Soundtrack to Your Escape, Soilwork, Stabbing the Drama, Dark Funeral, Terra Totus Sanctus, In Flames, Come Clarity, Dimmu Borgir, Abracadabra, just like on and on and on. So many great bands that have such an impact on metal. Like, this guy is the shit. And he really does his own thing. He's big on natural sounds. He mixes on a board, uses very, very few plugins, is really like for the purists. He's great for the purists, but also what's really cool about him is that he does his own thing and he keeps things pure and raw sounding, but they're modern. And that's what he does differently. Like a lot of times when guys are like, oh, I'm going to keep it raw, raw is just another word for shitty. In Daniel's productions, they sound fantastic and modern and just like you can feel the band in the room at the same time. So I'm stoked to have him on. He's one of my heroes. And before I bring him on, let me just tell you real quick about the URM Summit. This is an event that we are throwing on URM at Orlando, Florida in December of 2017, the 11th through the 14th. And it's basically 4 days of seminars, panels, hands-on boot camps, networking, and hangs with us and our guests. And let me read you who our guests are. We've got Andrew Wade, Billy Decker, Brian Hood, Finn McKenty, Kane Churko, Fluff, and then, of course, myself and Joel Wanasek and Joey Sturgis. And we are going to be not just educating you guys on recording and mixing, but business. And, of course, the part that I haven't even mentioned is this is going to be at the Doubletree SeaWorld Resort, and there's going to be tons of people coming in from all over the world. I think we've got already 9 countries represented. I mean, where else do you get a chance to hang out with so many audio people who just want to learn and get better and share knowledge in one place? You really don't get to do this very often. Plus, the guests, all of us are staying at the same hotel. Everyone's going to be hanging out at the same time. It's just going to be a great time. And if you want to check that out and come hang out with us in December, just go to urmsummit.com and get yourself a ticket, and hope to see you in December. So without further ado, I present you the podcast with myself and Daniel Bergstrand. So Daniel Bergstrand, welcome to the Unstoppable Recording Machine podcast. Normally we do these before Nail the Mix, but I think September was crazy for both of us, and so now we're doing it afterwards. But what's kind of cool about this is that now that people have seen you work, they actually have had some questions about it, but we'll get to that later. First things first, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. And you?
I'm doing well. So I wanted to jump right into your history, and I wanted to talk about how young you were when you started doing this stuff, and how quickly things happen. So you told me you started recording at 14, right?
That was maybe a bit too early. Too early. Yeah, but I think I was like around 15 or 16. So yeah, I mean, it happened really.
That's pretty young.
Yeah, that's super young. And I don't know, I just had a huge amount of luck, you know. Basically, I mean, it was like for so many other, I mean, I played guitar in a band, and, you know, bored and dropped school after 9th grade, and, you know, I wasn't really up for anything else than writing music and achieving, you know, the best possible recording back home. I guess, yeah, like I said, it's just luck. I mean, got to know a guy or 2 guys that was building a studio, and, you know, he offered us a deal, you know, to record a demo in their studio. So I believe I was 15 at the time.
I think there's always like a little bit of luck involved with, you know, meeting that right person who, like, you know, gives you that right first opportunity, and which leads to meeting that right first band, or meeting the band that makes it happen, or the contact in the industry that makes it happen. I think all that stuff is luck, but I mean, you obviously had to work your ass off too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so you dropped out of school in 9th grade. Did you do it because of music, or just because you hated school, or a combination of both?
I guess a combination of both. I mean, like I said, I mean, the only thing I cared about was music. I mean, lousy grades, and you know, that was about it. You know, like I said, I mean, we got to that studio, we got that offer, and you know, I'll never forget that feeling. You know, that I felt directly that this is what I'm going to do for a living. So it was that clear to me. You know,
man, that's actually really lucky that you figured it out so young, because a lot of people never figure it out. But could you describe that clarity? Like, I'm just curious about that, because I've always had a sense of clarity about what I've wanted to do, and it's guided me. It sounds like you had the same thing.
Oh, yeah. How can I describe that clarity? I mean, you like electronical things, right? And then you see all these lights and all these, like, I don't know, it's just a feeling like, yeah, I want to record albums. I want to be in a studio. That's all I care about. I mean, in the beginning, I felt like, okay, so what am I actually going to study now after 9th grade? I mean, I don't know the English terms for all this, like media, whatever. But, you know, there was nothing that really fitted into what I wanted to learn. And also, I mean, and also because of the grades, it was not like a lot of options either. So, I don't know. But like I said, I mean, at that studio, everything happened so quickly because I don't know in what order this happened, but for some strange reason, that guy letting me stay there even at night to play around, with their equipment and to practice by myself. Maybe I asked too many questions during daytime, so they wanted to get rid of me. But I don't know. But that's actually how it started. Just they noticed that I was like super interested in what they had there and how things worked and so on. And one thing led to another, and I asked if I could intern here, and he said yeah.
How old were you when that happened?
Yeah, I believe I was 15.
Okay, so you moved fast.
I moved fast, yes. Yeah.
You know that I had a kind of a similar story actually. When I was 14, my first band went to record, and we went to kind of like the place in town that did all the best local bands, the popular local band studio at that time I think it was 1994 actually, like 94, 95, 93, that time period. And the guy who ran it, I guess, noticed that I was curious about this stuff and actually kind of did the same thing. Like he lent me like an SM57 and like a 3630 compressor and would let me run the tape machine and just kind of help me. And I kind of feel like it's almost, and he was like 35, 36. So it's like getting like a real adult approval on this stuff. It really, really helped tremendously.
Oh yeah, huge salute to those guys. I mean, kicking you into the this lifestyle. I mean, just to help you out. So I don't know what to say. I'm just so grateful to these two persons that got me into this. I mean, still even today when I meet them, I go like, if it wasn't for you, man,
well, that's entirely possible too, man. If you hadn't met them, who the hell knows? I mean, I feel like talent and skill will only take you so far, but you definitely need that tiny amount of luck, or big amount, to meet that right person. It's not the same kind of luck involved with like winning the lottery or something like that, but it's kind of similar. It's kind of similar. It's like winning. It's like, of all people you could have met, right? You happen to meet like the right person to kick you into what ended up being your entire career. So let's talk about the internship. So you're 15, you're interning at a studio where they already like you, because you were like the smart kid. How, what kind of stuff were you doing when you were interning?
Yeah, it was, they quite quickly started to, they turned into a record label as well. Okay. And it was some cooperation with Roadrunner Records, actually. And, nice. So I mean, it was a busy studio. We were doing, I think, like 3 compilation albums. So there was a lot of bands every day, like sometimes up to 4 to 5 bands per week.
Oh, wow. You guys would record every track on the compilation?
Yeah, that's correct, because it was the label's compilation album. So but anyway, it was a lot of bands, and I got more and more responsibility, and it just led to me being the one doing everything, and the other 2 guys were more focusing on the label part. So it just, like I said, it happened so quickly, everything. I mean, maybe they noticed quite fast that, okay, let him do this, because I was obviously kind of okay, So I don't know. I mean, I didn't do anything else. I mean, I slept in the studio. I was there 24/7, never at home. If there was any any pause between the sessions, I was, recording myself and learning a new piece of equipment. Yeah, man, I'm totally obsessed.
So I've thought about that obsession that I think everyone needs to go through. It's interesting. I feel like lots of the guys I know who are really good at recording or music, once they hit their 30s, they start taking like one day off a week, or they say, I get my best work done in the morning, or, like in the first 6 hours, and then I try to have a normal life, but like, and they say that you shouldn't do the 12-hour days or the 16-hour days anymore. But all those people, every single one of them who ever got good, had a time period in their early 20s or in their teenage years where it lasted for like 3 to 5 years, where they did like 12 hours a day and did nothing else with their life.
You're so right about that. I think it's lasts even longer, like even up to your whole 30s. I'm still there. I'm still working more or less the same as before. And then you get into like, okay, things are going to change now. I mean, we need to work better hours, but it always tends to be like the opposite. I lose track of time. If I'm into something and then all of a sudden it's 3 o'clock at night, and like, oh damn, okay, and I haven't eaten either. Okay, and I have a bit of a curfew. If it's starting to be like next day, like light, if it's not dark anymore, then I might as well continue working till I get super tired, because it's no need to, go back home and sleep. I'll just, destroy the next day. So I might as well, work as much as I can during that day. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I mean, that's just a sign that I still think it's fun, and so I just gotta keep going.
Well, I think it's interesting about that. So about you still finding it fun. You also are very, very particular about how you record. Like, it's mainly analog. Like you definitely do your own thing, and you stick to your own thing. Do you think that that's part of why you still feel so much enjoyment for it? Maybe
so. There's something about categorizing things, or like having things in order, that I like. When I feel that's a bit of a mission too. I mean, I want everything to look good, like all the WAV files sorted out, good names, or good titles, and just organized. I love that, and that's a part of the challenge, and that keeps me up, And then nothing beats the feeling of when you achieved a good snare drum sound or whatever, a good guitar sound, like, yeah, and it gives you extra power, and then, or strength, and I love that. And like you said, I don't know if this really answered your question, but sticking to analog things, yeah, of course, I love that.
Well, I just mean that you stuck to what you felt was the right way for you to make the music. Like, for instance, I think that, my partner Joey, he's not an analog guy at all. Like, he uses like 0 outboard and is 100% in the box, and he doesn't like analog gear. And I think that part of what kept him going was just doing his own thing,
Yeah, maybe
I
right.
think, as for the art side of I think that this is both science and art. And I think that for the art side, a lot of guys don't focus on what they actually feel artistically comfortable with enough. I just think there's something to be said for the fact that you still love it as much as you did, and you do your own thing. And by the way, as far as keep order, your studio is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, obviously it's clean, but like it's so like orderly and like just great. It's just a great place. It's a great studio.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I lose sometimes I need a few reminders from people. I go like, man, your console, it's so massive and beautiful. It's so, oh yeah, you're right. And then I get that first feeling when we got it into the studio. I go like, oh, I don't know, what do you call it in English? You get used to seeing these things, so you forget how cool it is.
Oh, you kind of become
like
complacent.
Home. Yeah. So, but thanks. I really enjoy working here too. That was actually the thing. But like in the beginning, it was a lot of traveling, and I felt like I want to have my own good studio to always, lean back on, if anything, and especially to mix, and I think we succeeded. It was supposed to be like this last studio that we were in, like we were supposed to be here like 1 or 2 years and then, build this like big house or something. But, now 10 years has passed. So yeah, we'll see.
I mean, it kind of covers all the bases. So let's go back to when you were younger. So was Meshuggah your first breakthrough? Do you consider that your first breakthrough?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I don't know. I worked. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten Meshuggah if it wasn't for some of the local bands that I did. But the first real breakthrough, Meshuggah. I worked on 2 albums with a local band called Lost Souls, and that led me into meeting Fredrik and into Meshuggah. And then after that, things happened so fast.
Okay, and so you were 19, so you had already been working at that studio and like doing it for a few years.
Yeah.
So you had done the compilations and
and then also a lot of albums. I forgot what bands, but it was a lot of albums, a lot of bands. But I would say that maybe Lost Souls and a band called Crawley led me, into Meshuggah. This I heard just like a few weeks ago, that we did some sort of also compilation thing, like a EP with these 2 bands, and that was the one that Fredrik got hooked up on. So he contacted the label that I worked at, or label studio, and asked about like, hey, I also wanna, I wanna book a session, and then the and then the owner said like, yeah, then you should talk to Daniel, and he's 4.5 year old. So yeah, that's how it started.
So they were already around for a little while, but were they like a prominent band in your area, or not quite yet?
Yeah, no, not quite yet. A few of us knew about Contradiction Collapse. I've heard that one, and I liked it, of course. But after None, that's when it really started to happen, at least around here. And it was they just released None, and we were listening to None a lot. Like, oh wow, it's so cool! This band from north of Sweden, and then just by coincidence he called me right after that. So the same thing happened with Devin Townsend too. The manager that I had at that time, he asked me like, okay, so if you got to choose, which one would you like to work with? Name just one band that you would like to work with, or one person. I said like, yeah, Devin Townsend, that would be so sweet. He just released Heavy as a, what is it called? Heavy as a Really Heavy Thing. And
yes.
The day after, Devin called me. So I don't know, it's just luck.
Did the manager have anything to do with that?
I don't think so.
Just the stars aligned.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. I think a lot of people consider Destroyer Race Improved to be like their Meshuggah's breakthrough record, but also like the record that kind of started an entire genre of music and kind of changed metal forever. Did you have any idea when you were working on it that you were working on revolutionary stuff?
I had no idea about that. I mean, I knew that it was going to be extremely good, and I was a bit, nervous in the beginning. Like, okay, at least I have to make it sound as good as none. But that was just in the very beginning, and then they're so cool guys, and we're just hanging around with friends in the studio and having fun. I don't think any one of us knew that or had a feeling that we were doing something, starting a new genre or anything, or that it was going to be their breakthrough album. I don't think so.
You were just enjoying yourself.
Yeah. I think it was just a good combination between us all, and I was obviously doing something that Fredrik liked, and it was just a good match. So
you showed me some of those videos of you guys back then. Like, it seemed like they shared the same kind of love for creating that you did. Like, did you guys find yourselves kind of like, I don't want to say soulmates because but like musically, like that, were you guys like all aboard with like working like the crazy hours and just seeing how awesome it could be?
Absolutely. We're me and Fredrik is exactly the same. Yeah, we work till we when you feel that your heart is outside your body, then it's time to quit. but other than that, we work crazy hours, me and Fredrik. I mean, it actually happens nowadays too when we work on something, even for Coloss and stuff like that. It could be like 2 days in a row, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should sleep. But we're really creative, and we're super picky and thorough, and I don't remember like all these details from Destroy, Erase, Improve. A few things got back to me after seeing the video and after talking a bit to Fredrik about it, and he said again that, man, we spent so many hours on configuring that and that and that, and we didn't give up. We really worked. This was the very best we could do, and so yeah, we're all picky, but good match again.
So his pickiness matched your pickiness, and
yeah. It still does even today. I mean, we have the same opinion about things, and maybe he's a little bit more picky in guitar sound than me, but drums and like mixes and all, I think we're the same.
How long did you guys spend on Destroy, Erase, Improve?
I believe it was 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks.
So 3 intense weeks.
Yeah, so maybe 6 weeks then.
Yeah. 6 weeks for a normal person. If you count the amount of time spent.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we worked, like I said, 24/7, and then when I was tired, I went back home, slept, and then Fredrik was probably up tracking himself or tracking something. I got back in the morning and then took over from there. So, and we actually went directly to master the album too. We mixed, I think, like 2 days in a row, and then took the car, drove to Stockholm, and then mastered it. So that's how it worked at that time. Yeah. Go directly and master is crazy.
Yeah. So, okay. So did that have to come out before you started to get these other bands like Soilwork and Devin Townsend? Like, you said that things moved very, very fast after that. Did the record have to come out, or was the momentum already started for you?
It had started, actually. I mean, we did the album, and then we went directly on tour too. Burn My Eyes tour with Machine Head for about 9 weeks.
So when you say we, what do you mean we?
I was
like,
doing
were you doing sound for them?
Yeah, I was doing the front of house.
Okay.
and the record got released on tour, like halfway into the tour or something. And at that time, I already had a couple of things going, so I knew exactly what I was going to do when I get back home from tour. And I couldn't really make up my mind at that time, because I thought, touring, that's awesome. I'm gonna tour, I'm gonna record albums, but I realized that, you know, being on the road is maybe not anything for me. It's fun, but that's stress, and that you can't. This is what you got to play with. I mean, sound-wise, and I hate that feeling. You know, when I
have to make it sound amazing within 45 minutes, if that, and that's it.
Yeah, and you know how it is when you're on like the support band. You get, I mean, today you got a line check, guys. Okay, line check, and I'm the one who needs to go up on stage and tap the microphones to see that I got signals, and then go back again and then hope for the best, you know. And I don't like that stress. That, and then, I mean, once again, we were young, but I mean, even at that time, I felt like, okay, being on tour, that would turn me into an alcoholic. But okay, maybe it wouldn't be the same today, but you know. That was too stressful, and then I couldn't do both because I had so many albums lined up and things lined up. So I mean, I had to, you know, pick something.
I think you made the wise choice.
Yeah, I think I went on one or two more tours with Meshuggah, but that was about it. And then, you know, I had some spare time things, you know, local bars, and just to get some extra cash. But I don't do that anymore. It's not anything for me.
Do you think, though, that the idea of tracking, of like working in a live environment and having to set things up to work right then and there, it is what it is. Like, you can't then edit it into perfection or anything. It's the real thing. Do you think that that's affected your production style at all?
You're referring to live or referring to like tracking an album?
Well, do you think that any of your live experience affected your album production workflow or philosophy?
Nah. I mean, there was not many options, if that's what you're referring to. I mean, I couldn't really sit and edit, and it was tapes and ADOT and stuff like that.
So you were stuck anyways with what you got.
Yeah.
But to this day, though, do you think that that's affected your production style, even when Pro Tools came into the picture and all that?
Probably, yes. I mean, I like to keep if I have a cool piece of machinery, I want to track it down, and I want to have the same sound next time I open up that session. And I like tracking things. So every channel should sound good. It's just going to be able to solo everything, and it should sound good. I don't like cover things in, like, in the whole mix. You won't be heard anyway. That's cool. I really don't work like that. Want to solo the hi-hat and solo the bass. It should sound good. So
that's interesting, because I know some people definitely feel like if you can't hear it in the mix, it doesn't matter.
Crap.
And I've heard some good producers feel that way. But then also I completely agree with you that you should take every detail and make it as good as you possibly can. Like, why not?
Yeah, well, exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, why not do it? You're there. I mean, why not just do it good? And of course, I mean, it depends on the style. I mean, I'm not saying like it should sound awesome if it's a grindcore band, like everything, but it should at least be organized, and no bullshit there, or nasty punch-ins, or stuff like that. Just clean it up and make that sound good. And I'm not talking about editing either, like quantizing and stuff like that, which I've done in the past, but not doing that much anymore, like nowadays. But
you're just talking about having like professional sessions that actually work, that aren't slopped together like bullshit, like taking it seriously, even if the genre itself is like grind, which is very, it's explosive and shouldn't be messed with too much. You still don't want to have a garbage session.
No, that's correct. That's correct. And it should be. I mean, like I said, it should be good. I mean, you shouldn't have, pungence in there, man. Fix the crossfades if there is any, and stuff like that.
Let's talk a little bit about your production style, because you've done something really, really unique, which is that even through the age of digital editing and being able to replace everything, you've managed to keep your productions very, very organic sounding and like real and raw, but at the same time modern and huge and polished, which is like two opposite things, but you managed to get them both in your productions. Can you talk about that at all?
Absolutely. First, thanks, man, for that. I mean, it's I guess it's based on, I really like natural drum sounds. I mean, like Andy Wallace's drum sounds, and that's
they're great.
Yeah, I just love it, and that was the actual mission for me in the beginning. I thought all my sessions sounded like shit, and I also wanted to make it sound as good, and so I guess this is the result of all these hours spent trying to find that good, cool combination between when I went over to Pro Tools. When I went over to Pro Tools, for example, and I started using Pro Tools like 10 years ago or something, so I'm pretty fresh. But finding that combination to maintain the acoustic vibe, even though, and also get that snappy, in your face drum sound, and yeah, that was challenging in the beginning. But now I think I know what to do and how to achieve that. But it's just it's all based on having the right mic placements and all these trial and errors. It's a result of that. Every time I record something, I have an extra mic somewhere. I always do something new to see if I can improve myself or find like new solutions to things, and spend a lot of time with room mics in general, because that's where the acoustic vibe is to me. So as long as you got that, as long as you have that, like good ambient mics, then you can mix in triggered, channels if you want to, and I don't find it that tricky anymore.
There's nothing like a great drummer in a great room.
Oh yeah, absolutely. First of all, you need that drummer, though.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people don't realize how important that part is. That it's all for shit if the musician isn't great.
Absolutely, yeah. I like guitar player, man. Yeah, but drummers, I mean, you can't really. I mean, if it is someone that plays really sloppy, then you're doomed. then you need to figure out. Then you need to have a lot of cards in your sleeve to, like, okay, this is that type of drummer. Okay, then I know I can do that and that and that. So there are, and so actually sometimes that's fun. Sometimes it is fun to record a person which is not that good, because then the challenge is fun to make it sound good.
That's actually really fascinating that you say that, because I know lots of people who would get really, really frustrated by a bad musician. But it's interesting. So your challenge is to keep your aesthetic, your production aesthetic, but getting that out of, like, say, a sloppy drummer. So still making it sound raw, still making it snap, but somehow figuring out how to do that with a bad drummer, which is, normally the solution for a bad drummer is just to replace the whole thing, make it sound like a drum machine.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't pay more attention to better musicians than not as good musicians. It's the same thing. I mean, if we're working together, it's gonna be good, and otherwise we shouldn't work together. I spend as much time on those bands, like not known bands. It's as important to me as it is for them, and that's I've never really like done a record that they're not good, I was just gonna do it anyway, blah 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 blah. I always spend a lot of time and make it as good as I can. It's worth it in the end, Maybe that's how you keep getting jobs.
Yeah, never allow your standards to drop. It doesn't. I feel like it doesn't matter who the band is. If you drop your own standards, then that's basically you're setting the stage for doing a bad job. Like, if you even say it's okay once, then it becomes okay twice.
Exactly. And how fun is it to work also when just, it sucks, but what the fuck? I mean, it's just, I'll focus on the next one instead. It's not fun,
No, it's actually torture. It actually kind of sucks when you do that. So one way, there was a time period when I was recording and I was actually starting to get frustrated by some of the bands because they couldn't play for shit. And one day I was like, I don't want to hate this. Like, I don't want to be mad all the time. So how can I reframe this in my mind so that I'm positive about it, because this is not good. Because I was seriously getting pissed. Because it was band after band after band after band just fucking sucked. And they were like on labels and touring, and it was just like messing with my head. It was like, how are these bands even getting a shot? Like, this is not what I signed up for. And then one day I was just like, you know what? Just take it as an opportunity to learn. The challenge is to make these guys sound great. And the worse they are, the more of a challenge it is, and the better you're going to get if you make them sound great.
Exactly. It's a perfect opportunity to try out new mics and new mic placements in general, and because I mean they have problems playing anyway, and then you need to find that good solution for that drummer or for that guitarist, and you learn so much. For every session you learn something new. So like you're so spot on. It's better to not seeing the negative thing in it and like just only focusing on how bad they are, and focus on, okay, what else can I do? What can I do new now? How can I improve? How can I make this snare drum sound good? I mean, maybe I should mix that sample with that sample. Maybe I should, try to see the fun in it and learn something out of it instead. Absolutely.
I don't think that's a natural. I don't think that's like a natural thing for people, or for most people, to just like be presented with crap and find the goodness in it. Of course there's a limit, until you explode. But at least try to do the best out of it. And I don't know, drink more coffee. It takes drink more coffee. I think that really did work for me though. Like, when I was successful in changing the way I thought about it, the sessions went way better. Like, got it to sound way better, and the relationship with the bands was way better, and I slept way better at night. Everything was just better, and it did take a little bit of work mentally to like. Sometimes it was a matter of like thinking about it actively, like, okay, this guy sucks. Have to not worry about him sucking. Have to just think about how to make it great.
Not worrying about them sucking. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
but you've been doing this for quite some time too. What did you say? 94?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that like I've never been like obsessed with it the way you were. I was more into writing music, but I got introduced to recording very, very young, and so I always used it as a way to record my own stuff. And it just kind of developed from there. Like it just, so like maybe 2001 I started recording other people's bands because I guess some people heard my own demos back then and were like, you should record my band. And, you know, one thing led to another, and eventually I was recording a couple signed bands. But then in like 2004, 2005, but then my band got signed. And so I kind of didn't record for about 5 years. I mean, I did, but not all the time. So it's been kind of like a off and on thing. But yeah, I've been doing it for a while. Definitely for a while. Like I was definitely introduced to it on tape.
Oh yeah.
But
you started with this like Fostex E16 kind of thing, or were you?
Yeah. Well, the studio that I went to had a 1/2 inch.
Okay.
And so we recorded on that. But then, yeah, I had my own Fostex cassette. Started the cassette recorders, and then moved on to a Sound Blaster, and then
I've done those sessions too, you know, being back home, and then you record a guitar at the same time as you're copying over to the next cassette deck, and then you. Oh yeah. You know, yeah, so you can imagine the you know the feeling that I had when we went to that studio, like a real studio.
It's, man, I don't think that kids these days understand what it was like in the Fostex 4-track days.
No, probably not. And then, I mean, even speaking about ADOTs, how limited you are, and also actually how cool it is. You know, you got this amount of channels, and that's it. And you listen to music, and you're not watching music. And you know, you need to make up your mind whether you should we really dare to record this before that part, in case of if I miss the, you know. If I miss stopping the tape machines, I mean, then it will, you know, all that stress and all that. You're afraid of, you know, tracking over something. You got one chance. That's it.
I always used to love that stuff.
Yeah, same here. And then mixing too. You know, and you're 3 persons, you know, doing things on the console at the same time as you're bouncing it over to DAT or something. And then, yeah, if you screw it up, like, damn, okay, let's do it again. And, you know, that mission and that challenge is so fun, too. You can feel the excitement and feel the tension in the room while bouncing it down to DAT. All that's gone.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. So I remember when I went to that studio once, it was very, very early. I walked in, and the guy was doing a mix to ADAT. You know, from the 1/2 inch through the console to ADAT, and he was halfway through the song, and I just he didn't notice that I walked in the room. You know, for people who are like under the age of 30, you should realize that back then you had to perform mixes. Like, it was kind of like playing, like you played the board like you played an instrument almost. So I walked up, and he didn't notice. And so I got closer to him and said hi. And like, he looked at me, and then like the fucking lasers in his eyes looked like he wanted to fucking kill me. And then he went back to mixing. And then the minute the song was stopped, don't you ever fucking come near me when I'm performing a mix. What the fuck do you think you're doing?
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, I learned from that one. But
you learned from that.
Yeah, I never did it again. But I mean that whole, you've got one time to get it right and all that. I feel like, even though obviously, you're using Pro Tools now and are in 2017, it does seem like some of that has stuck with. At least it sounds like you get that out of the musicians that you produce. Like really, really good performances and really.
Yeah, but that's the key thing, good performances, of course, and once again being really thorough with everything. Really, really pay attention to how you mic things up and make sure that it sounds good. Double check all channels. Do I have oxide or whatever? And check everything. And of course, things slip through. Even today, but be careful. That's the key thing.
There are no perfect sessions ever.
No, there's always always something. But
it's funny to me, like when I on Nail the Mix, because we're getting the actual tracks from whoever did them, and the actual session is never going to be perfect. There's always going to be something in there. And sometimes some of our students who have never worked on professional records will point out those mistakes. Like we did something wrong. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, no record is ever perfect. There is always going to be mistakes in there. You're dealing with humans.
Yeah, but of course. Yeah, there's always something in there. Before you got the files from me now for Destroy, Erase, Improve, there was some things that I needed to clean out. But that was, some vocal takes that we muted live when we mixed it when we did the live mix. So I needed to cut that away. But apart from that, everything is as it was. But there are things, And I look back to it. It was a long time ago, and some things are not really in tune, and it's a little bit sloppy. I know it's Meshuggah, so it's stupid to say sloppy, but a bit sloppy for being them, But who cares? It was a long time ago. And the only one that cares actually is it's the band. So, but there's always things.
That really was a long time ago. I don't think that. Sloppy doesn't really come to mind for me. But it's funny to hear you say that. I don't think that anybody else would actually think of that. Probably besides, like you said, besides the band. I have some questions here from the audience. I would like to ask you.
Shoot.
Hang on 1 second. I pulled up the wrong thing.
All right, worse. But you talked about that people were pinpointing mistakes, sometimes for your Nail the Mixes. Was there anything that popped up for Destroy, Erase, Improve?
Not that I can remember. I actually, with the files you gave, everyone was just kind of blown away that you could go mixes up. Faders up, and it pretty much sounded finished.
Yeah, that's what I realized too. Yeah, it was bringing it up to zero, and then it sounded more or less like the album. A few things needed.
Honestly, I think that kind of was the thing that people focused on the most. Like that, they realized just how good the band is and the production was to be able to get it that close. But sometimes they'll point out if there's a bad edit or there's a blank file or or you hear kick drums in the overheads, but they're not in the kick drum track.
Oh, what about that, by the way? I hate that. When people need to learn, if you're editing kicks, edit the whole drum kit.
Yes.
Please do that.
It's. But that just goes to show that a lot of stuff gets by on records, and that I think that if you're a student learning, you should kind of like what we were talking about earlier. The worst a musician is, the more of an opportunity you have to really focus on your engineering skills. Kind of like when you get files to mix, if there's problems like that, then you have the opportunity to learn how to solve them.
Oh yeah, all these kind of ambience tricks that I play with today or use today is actually coming from scenarios like that. Like the kicks are edited, but not together with the overhead and the room mics, and then I need to figure that out somehow. And you need to create a new environment for the drums, and that takes up a lot of time. And I spent probably months and months and months, figuring out the best possible way.
Yeah, because I mean, let's face it, lots of, especially now, like the further we get and the more that recordings are kind of done like at home or by like less experienced guys, like especially drums are oftentimes delivered to mixers not sounding very good.
Yeah, you're right. Right. And what's also sick is that your mix is, you spend like 3/4 of the mix just mixing the drums. At least I am. I don't know about you, but the most part of the mix is like dealing with the drums, and then like, okay, time for guitar. Maybe done. Okay, vocals done. Now I'm printing the mix. So it's, imagine if recordings were better, drums. I mean, how much more time could you spend on guitars and like, small funny like details instead of trying to rescue bad editing. And that's a bit of a shame.
It is, but I mean, some of those ambience tricks that you were showing on Nail the Mix were really, really cool. So, so how that brings up the question that how often are you mixing stuff that you didn't produce?
I don't know, 50-50 maybe.
50-50. Yeah. Okay, so a good amount of the time.
Yeah, good amount. Yeah, that's correct. So maybe now like lately it's been, and I don't know, kind of a lot. Maybe like 8 out of 10 bands maybe. So but it goes in circles, like in periods.
So you really do have to do a lot of drum rescuing.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
We totally went off on a tangent. I actually have these questions in front of me now, finally. So let me start with Clifton Miles, and this is, what's your best advice when it comes to finding balance in your mixes? Also, do you look for certain gauges or meters to determine that your low end is thick enough, or is that not something you think about?
This may come like a shock to some people, but I've never really got used to look to meters and watching frequencies. I had a good, what is it called, like spectrum analyzer, tone. Never mind. But I had one in the beginning, but nowadays, no. I just listen. If it sounds good, it sounds good. And you get used to your own monitors after a while, and I can feel like if it's the right amount of bass in the vibrations of my console. And I got teased many years for doing that by feeling the cone of the speaker in my second studio, like look, it's touching the speaker again, and they were taking photos and sending to other friends and like, hey. So I think I got to know how it feels, the frequencies, and that's my spectrum analyzer. What was the first part of the question?
And that's a great answer, by the way. The first part of the question was, what's your best advice when it comes to finding balance in the mixes?
That's also part of the, picky, thorough thing. If your kick sounds good and the channel is clean and good, and then awesome. And then over to the snare, same thing, and then. It's so easy to find the right balance if you know that all channels sounds good and you're not covering anything. up with this amount of channels. Make sure it sounds good, every individual channel, and that will help you out finding the right balance. That's how simple it is. I think the question was up before about, I mean, how do you place it? How do you put in like a distorted bass together with a really low tuned 7 or 8 string guitar? And that's the same thing, you know, finding the right harmonics in the distortion and find a room for the bass. You know, it's not rocket science. It's just, you know, once again, be thorough, you know, with every channel.
It's not rocket science, but you definitely do need to put the work in.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that, but, you know, it's not any like magical trick. It's
no,
you know.
It's not. No, you just it really is interesting to me. Speaking of how it's not a magical trick, that the guys we have on Nail the Mix, which are all great mixers, they tend to have very simple chains for the most part, and they for the like 9 out of 10 have just like very, very simple chains and would just all say the same thing. It's not rocket science. Just you need to actually take the time to learn how this stuff feels and sounds to you, and then it's just a matter of making the right moves instead of a bunch of moves.
Absolutely. And it's not about like having the best piece of equipment. Almost that it's actually better to not have good things in the beginning, because then you need to learn more, then you need to practice more, and you know, then you need to get skilled by the things that you got. And that's how it started for me. I had like nothing. And it went even worse over to the next studio, because the lightning strokes the studio and like destroyed everything. So I didn't have anything.
You've lived through a lightning strike, so have I.
Oh, you have? Okay. What about water leaks? I had like three water leaks too.
I had one.
Okay.
Man, is it a lightning? Were you there for the lightning strike?
No, I was not. That was the last session in that studio. I had a water leak like a few days before. So, and it was like in a dugout actually. So, so it was probably a lot of water like inside the wall or something, and I don't know, whatever. And then we were done, and then I left for Stockholm to do something, and the band was still there, and they were filming like Bye Bye Studio and all that. And then he was just about to call me on the landline like phone and say like, hey, we're leaving the studio now, thanks for this time. And then it happened, and he saw like blue light kicking out from every socket, and it could easily have killed him for sure if he would have had called me while that happened. That was scary. And then I mean, I didn't. Okay, cool. No, everyone survived. That's awesome. Just leave the studio, and then I'll deal with it later. So, and then I just packed everything down. I didn't double check it until we opened up the next studio, and then I realized that everything was broken. So,
man, it's traumatic. I was there like when it happened, and it was like you said, like the blue light and everything that was plugged in was just gone. It was terrible.
Man. Nightmare.
Such a bad experience.
Maybe also we walked into like at that studio too. We walked into the live room. You just came directly into the live room when you open up the door, and then I stepped in water, like I don't know, many centimeters of water, and then that could have killed me too, because like some of the sockets were floating in the control room in the water, you know.
Holy shit.
So, scary scenario.
Talk about luck. I mean, yeah, that is actually pretty scary. That's why I tell people when there's a bad storm, just unplug your studio. Don't fuck with it.
I guess you're used to it, living in the States and all of its tornadoes and bullshit.
Oh, well, yeah, and I had a studio in Florida for like 4 years, which Orlando is the lightning capital of the United States. So, like, it was very, very normal to see lightning striking the ground. So always at about 3 p.m. every single day between May and October in storm season, you can just unplug the studio for about an hour and a half. And the storms come through, and they're fucking violent, and then they're over. But you do need to, if you don't unplug, you're really tempting fate.
Yeah, that's true.
In my opinion. Okay, so here's another question from Morden Field, which is, Daniel's mixes often have elements of like boomy rooms and loose drums, yet it sounds great. I would love to hear how he finds room for all of that stuff without having it just eat everything up and make it messy. Like, how can you shed some light on how you make it all work?
I had that discussion quite recently too. I don't believe in the thing that, okay, yeah, there's a lot of room here that won't fit to that type of style, and that won't fit. But yeah, it will fit to that style. But it's just a matter of balance again, and then making sure that it's not the lowest frequencies, and that, like, the bass is not that long in the room. Bad English, but that you don't have too much low end in the room mics, or you could have a lot of low end, but make sure that it's the correct low end, and that it doesn't interfere with the low end in the bass, for example, so they're on the same frequencies.
So you carve the shit out of your rooms to make them work?
Yeah. I carve a lot around, first of all, like 300-400 hertz, a lot. And then I kick in some of like the very lowest, like 40, something to that, a little bit. And then what else is common? Like this 3-4K kind of frequencies, and take that out a bit, and then compress the shit out of it, and then find the right place for it, volume wise. So it's I don't like when it's too much treble in the ambience mics, and I don't like that cardboard 300 hertz, 400 hertz frequency. So by doing that, I think it's quite easy to find it in place. And it also, this question links to the previous question too, like if all channels are good, it's not that hard to find a good balance. And I do love ambience mics. I think that's, once again, where the natural feeling is, and it should be present. It could be in there even if it's like the fastest band ever, even when doing like Behemoth and bands like that, there's a lot of room.
I think that's part of what helps them sound so awesome, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And even though if it's not that like super present frequencies in the room or in the ambience, it still helps to create another dimension. Like it's pretty much the same thing as adding like what do you call it, like swirl frequencies. It could be just, I don't know, speed up a cartoon flick or something, and then put it into distortion, and then you cool frequencies, put it in the mix, and then it feels like you have something. You have another dimension.
Man, I haven't done that in a while, but that's such a cool trick.
Yeah, I mean that I learned that after the City album with Strapping Young Lad. It's everywhere, and then after that record, I started to do that too. So I have samples everywhere. I had that for many years. Now I sort of kind of forgot to do that, but it really helps out your song. Just add one more dimension, and it's really sweet. If you think that, this riff, I love the riff, but it doesn't sound as powerful as the riff before, and it doesn't really work with like kick up the volume, then try to experiment with that. Add some sort of in the background, and then but very, very low. that quite often works.
It really does. It's weird how well it works. Okay, here's another one from Pierre-Luc Lempron, which is, Daniel's music productions are amazing on many aspects, one being his great mastery of low end, which is a difficult range in medical production. Can he give, in metal production, not medical production, can he give us advices on how he achieves such a great low end extension in the kick, for instance, on the Coloss album? Also, how much of that low end extension comes from the mix and how much in the mastering stage?
I don't think it's that much in the mastering stage. They probably cut out a little bit in the mastering stage, just to smoothen out the very lowest and control the low end a bit. But so the rest is in the mix. And as far as that kick goes, it was more or less the same thing, being a little bit careful with the 300-400 hertz thing in the kick, a lot of low end and a lot the room. So the whole Coloss album is like built on the room, more or less.
I was about to say that really does sound like a room heavy album.
Yeah. The whole every channel, like, well, especially even the toms. You're right. But the snare I helped out with some IRs that I've done in another studio a few years earlier than that one. So I added in that IR and I blended it in with my room, and they were sort of pals, so they worked great. And the kick it was blended in with some sort of sample too, but mainly it's the real thing, There's a lot of fatso and a lot of EQing.
Nice.
And it's hard to say exactly how to manage to get that sound like this, but focus on the room.
Yeah, I think that you kind of answered it throughout the entire podcast. Honestly, this question, I feel like we've been talking about it for a while, and also he should watch Nail the Mix.
Yeah,
that we did last week, because you kind of covered this.
Exactly. Yeah, we did a bit of that.
Yeah. Okay, last question. This is from Eric Burt, and here goes. Daniel, you are responsible for so many of my favorite metal records that I lost count. Can you talk about how you decide whether to place the kick above the bass or the bass above the kick in terms of frequency? It seems most mixers these days are doing kick below the bass, but on Stabbing the Drama, it sounds like you went kick above the bass. I was curious about that.
Stabbing the Drama it's both, actually. It's a bit below and a lot above. So but it's that frequency again. When you listen to the kick soloed, sounds quite stupid. It's just low end, massive amount of low end, and a lot of this typewriter frequency, and so it doesn't sound that good. But together with the room mic, that's where it all happens. And I do it both ways, both above and both below. So I don't have a favorite option. It depends on the style too. So if it's more like rock or something, I don't go that low frequency wise on the kick. And lately it's been a lot. Lately maybe it's been above the bass.
I guess it just sounds like it depends on what you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people should not overthink it and really try to more learn their speakers and learn their room and learn what they personally like from their favorite records. Like, figure out what's going on in your favorite records and why it works. And then when you're working on stuff, try to apply that.
Yeah. I mean, that's really good advice. That's actually how it started for me too. I was trying to copy my favorite records, eventually you find the tricks that you can use to establish your own sound, and that's how simple it is. Overthinking is definitely a problem. Tweak it till it sounds good, and don't care that much if it's, if you're doing stupid things. If it looks bad, I mean, who cares?
Well, someone had a question that I wasn't going to ask, but now I'm going to ask it because it fits what we're saying. Do you ever reference other mixes?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's once again how it started. That was the only thing I did. I was only referencing things. And that's how I learned. And nowadays not as much, but if it's sometimes it's good to ask the band when I'm mixing, just like, what's your favorite record? Not to copy the record, but to know what kind of sound do they prefer, so I'm not like leaning it to a direction which they will eventually hate. So, and also spend some time. So at that time, I'll referencing, but it's more like frequency wise to see that I'm like at the same ballpark.
So, it makes sense.
And after a while you get to know your own monitors and you feel confident with that. But I think you should. I think it's good to reference.
I mean, at the very least, to know that you're up to standard, up to like a professional standard. But then also, I used referencing a lot when I was figuring out balance.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Like, I would reference lots of records just for the kind of the stuff that people were asking earlier. It was just like, how much kick versus bass am I really hearing? Like, how much do I really want in there? Like, how loud are the cymbals really on my favorite records? Yeah,
you got it. That's a good thing to check out. Like you said, once you have the recipe, you can sort of trust yourself, your own judgment, I mean, as time goes by.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been great having you, and I really hope that we can do this again.
Yeah, we should. I mean,
visit you in Sweden again.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on. Yeah, this was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
The Unstoppable Recording Machine Podcast is brought to you by the 2017 URM Summit, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to spend 4 days with the next generation of audio professionals and special guests, including Andrew Wade, Kane Churko, Billy Decker, Fluff, Brian Hood, and many more. The inspiration, ideas, and friendship you'll get here are the things that you'll look back on as inflection points in your life. Learn more at urmsummit.com. To get in touch with the URM podcast, visit urm.com/podcast and subscribe today.